Disclaimer. Lily, author. I am 23 years old this year. And at this age, in early May, my aunt fell ill and was hospitalized. Upon learning the news, I immediately bought fruit and went to the hospital to see her. When I saw her struggling to get up alone and support the wall to the bathroom, I quickly walked over and helped her to the bathroom, asking her, "Auntie, where's my cousin and sister-in-law?" My aunt told me that my cousin's company has recently received a large order, not to mention taking leave. They have to work overtime every day. My cousin originally wanted to come. No, I asked. It's too expensive to hire a caregiver to start at 200 yuan. Your cousin and sister-in-law are about to have a child, and the financial pressure is enormous. If you can save it. I understand that my aunt has a kind mother's heart. After thinking about it, I came up with a solution. Auntie, let me take care of you. Upon hearing my suggestion, my aunt felt very embarrassed. But at my insistence, she had to agree. I immediately sent a WeChat message to the boss, explaining the situation. So I applied to work from home and stayed in the hospital for over a week. While working, I took care of my aunt, helped her go to the bathroom, and helped her take out food. Sometimes, a week ago, my aunt was discharged from the hospital. My cousin personally came to pick her up, and when he saw me, my aunt couldn't help but look at me and say, "Lily, although you look very similar to your mother." After listening to my aunt's words, I don't know how to continue. I know that even now my aunt hasn't reconciled with my mother. My aunt and my mother had a falling out 15 years ago. When it comes to the reason for their falling out, my grandparents have a total of 3 children. My aunt is the eldest and the eldest daughter in the family. She has been very sensible since childhood and has shared a lot of pressure with her parents. She loves her 2 younger brothers very much. My father is the second in line. At first, my mother's relationship with her aunt was quite good, and she respected her very much. She also loved me very much, and often called me to her house for dinner. But 15 years ago, my uncle fell ill. My uncle was very ill, and the cost of treatment was astronomical. My aunt couldn't get the money, so she cried and ran to our house, kneeling in front of us for help. At that time, my grandmother was still alive, and when she found out, she cried to death. Without saying a word, my aunt took out her family savings and even borrowed money from relatives and friends. My father had planned to contribute and wanted to use the money he and my mother saved to build a house to see my uncle's doctor. I'm not desperate, but your younger brother's condition is too serious and there is little hope of cure. The doctor also said that even if he survives this time, it's hard to guarantee a recurrence, and the cost of subsequent treatment is even more unbearable. Should we ruin our own lives for him? Don't forget, we still have 2 children, Lily and the army. With my mother's hard persuasion, my father finally wavered and only took out 10,000 yuan. But my aunt knew that my parents had money and that we were going to build a house. She went to my house every day and knelt and cried. In order to save this money, my mother took advantage of my father's carelessness and hid her passbook. Auntie is here. Grandma is here. And they are arguing uncontrollably. Crying and cursing are all over the house. But in the end, 3 months later, my uncle passed away and lost his husband. My aunt left my hometown without saying a word and left with a pair of children. We haven't heard from them until now. Grandma couldn't bear the pain of the white-haired person giving the black-haired person away, having lost her younger brother and mother one after another. My aunt was in agony and hated my mother deeply for it. She always felt that if my mother had been cold-blooded, ruthless, and selfish, maybe my uncle would have survived. After this incident, my dad also had opinions about my mom. 5 years ago, when my father passed away due to an accident, I just got into college. Having lost the backbone of my family, my mother told me, it's not that my mother is cruel, but that I can't afford to have 2 children go to school. If you get into a key university, my mother can still grit her teeth and work hard to provide for one. Reading a second book doesn't mean much. It's obvious that my mother's intention is to let me give up my studies, go out to work, and give up the opportunity to attend college to my younger brother, who is currently studying in his first year of high school. After understanding her meaning, crying and refusing, but what can I do? Can I make up for the tuition fees on my own? Do you criticize my mother for favoring boys over girls? In fact, from childhood to adulthood, they try to keep a bowl of water as flat as possible, without favoring their eyes. I spent a week persuading myself to accept this cruel fate. Just as I was about to put it into practice, burn down the admission letter I had worked hard for over a decade to obtain, and ruin my own career. As soon as the phone was connected, a familiar voice rang in my ear. Lily. After my uncle left, my aunt hasn't seen my parents for 10 years and said she wants to stay away from us. Although they live in the county town. I don't know why my aunt came to me, but she still went. After all, I arrived at my aunt's house, and she didn't say anything else. She just handed me a bank card and said, "Take it. Here is 20,000 yuan. Holding my bank card, I was crying uncontrollably. My aunt even scolded me. "Why are you crying? I'm looking for your father's sake. You study hard, and if you live well in the future." When I got home, I told my mother about it, and my mother told me about it. My aunt even called her and cursed. She said, "I'm sorry to your father." She said if I dare to stop you from reading. With the help of my aunt, I successfully completed my studies. Although she and my mother still haven't reconciled, and she still refuses to see my mother. My mother secretly reminds me, "Lily, I can't explain your uncle's situation clearly. Your aunt wants to save my younger brother, but I don't want to be dragged down. We can't reconcile anymore. But you must remember her great kindness." I also think so. I cannot interfere in the affairs of my elders, nor can I distinguish who is right from who is wrong. However,